2000.
Well, would that take you like 10 minutes?
Well, I'm still running in 900 to make sure everything's right, and I've learned it.
Yeah.
I think bumping it up will make it better, though.
So you have a Mark 7 now too, Matt?
Yeah.
God damn it, you
You're
guys.
the only non-baller on the podcast, as it turns out. So.
No shit. I am fucking peasant right here.
All right. Welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Ben. On deck, we got Tim Herron, of course. The
What's up,
nicest
guys?
guy in practical shooting. Right? And the grumpiest guy in practical shooting, Matt Hopkins. All right. So the minutes are out, have been out for a few days. Matt, you went to the in-person board meeting for USPSA, and I think it'd be interesting if you could tell us about that, what that was like.
The first day of the meeting.
You didn't go to the second day?
No, I was not. I'd rather sleep in before I caught my flight out of Vegas.
All right. So I'll make sure I put the minutes for the meeting, which are, I guess they're more detailed than it's been in years past. But
yeah, definitely, that was one of the main things out of it.
Yes, I'll put the meetings in the show notes so people can read that if they're interested. But I just want to talk about what was it like to go to a board meeting. So you're the only person who really directly had no business there who was there, right?
Yes, exactly.
And was that a first for them, or?
No, they've had guests before, I believe. Well, Mike and Manny were at the last one, but they were kind of like getting ready to be on the board, I guess. But they've had guests like do like talks or something if they wanted to bring up a topic. I believe they had Paul Hyland when he was presenting Terry Optics or Production Optics.
Right. Okay. But you're just there hanging out.
Yeah, I just started watching, learning. It was. I mean, it was. It was.
How often do they do it? They do it twice a year, yeah.
2 in person, yeah.
2 in person. The rest are phone meetings, and I think, kind of my sense of it is that they consider the in-person ones to be the ones where they're really productive.
Right.
All right. So, I would suppose the meeting was generally boring as shit. Is that about?
Yeah, it was pretty boring. I mean, they had like all the board members and Kim and Troy and Jake.
Nobody throws shit at anybody. It's fairly civil.
They all had their laptops out, typing on it. I mean, it was civil. It was kind of boring though, actually. And if someone mentioned like streaming this live at some point, holy shit, dude, that would be the most boring day ever. Having to sit in front of your computer and listen to that.
So there's like no drama, no nothing. Nobody's pointing fingers at people and getting up and walking out and things like that.
No, that never happened. I got kicked out twice. Once when they talked about the cost. When they talked about the cost of the website, and then when they went into the executive session about, I think, employee reviews.
Right. Well. Okay, so let's go down the minutes and look at some stuff that kind of jumps out at us as interesting, or maybe you could point to some things that you find interesting. Let's talk about Troy McManus' review of multi-gun rules. I see that in the agenda.
I don't even know what they talked about on that.
Really?
Is that...
Hold on, let me go down and see.
I think, well,
they talked about that the day you weren't there, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
No, that's no good. We'll have to go in the order that it was actually discussed then.
Well, how about Sherwin Greenfield now is, of course, the...
VP? Well, he has been.
Yeah, that's going to say he's been for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, Phil appointed him a couple years ago, and Mike just kept on the trend. Sherwin's done good.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints. Okay, so agenda item, update on technology project. So that is website and database. Like,
yeah, I mean, the gist of that was...
What is that? The website sucks monkey nuts. I think everybody agrees.
They're redoing the database, which means all the classifier data that's ever been, and the the algorithm is now going to be a actual thing in the background instead of a person that knows what the algorithm is. So basically, they have to like talk to people from overseas company that are doing it, and then the time frame between that is a little hectic and long.
Oh, because of the Okay, so there's some company doing it, and what is it like? They get emailed, and then because of their sleep cycle or whatever, they get up and answer the email, and then nobody's in the office when the email reply comes back. Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it takes a lot of time between the two.
Is it true that there's like people manually entering classifier data to this day?
Yes. I believe that happens.
Shit.
I can't believe it either.
Yeah.
This kind of goes along with those like dot matrix printers and things like that we were talking about a while back.
Yeah, exactly. It seriously is that.
That's got to be a full-time job for somebody.
I think it is somebody's full-time job. If they do that. That's why it only gets updated once a month. But one of the good things is they're going to have it where it updates every Tuesday, once a week. And they said the projected date is May of when it actually will go live.
So did you get a sense? I don't know what all they discussed. Aside from the classifier stuff, I don't want to say that it's going to become like 2016 modern, but we're going to get it to like 2002. You know?
Yeah, I think it'll be at least 2000 for sure. No, but they talked about like doing match sign up on their. You'll obviously have squatting like they had before. All that goes into the complexity.
Did you get a sense of what the new website would look like?
No, I got no sense of that. I didn't see any screenshots or anything.
It'd be nice. It'd be nicer though if the website could be kind of like I know what Mike's vision has been, or what he's talked about as far as being like a one-stop shop. Like you should be able to go there and look up classifier scores, sign up for matches, register, squad, pay for matches, whatever. And
yeah, I believe they're going to try to do all that.
That would be pretty cool.
So, based on the presentation, Matt, what can we expect like this year? The classification thing, and maybe.
I think they're going to have it all by May. They said.
All of it.
That's the gist I got of it.
Huh.
I mean, tech never goes good, and it always takes longer than normal, but. So, I mean, I think we'll see it this year for sure.
Okay.
See, the new president's on this. He's on it.
Well, in fairness to Mike, all this was put in play before he got the job.
I know.
Definitely take credit for
it. Sorry, Phil. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, the review of division equipment changes.
This was just so they can change the bylaw, and then, they can. So basically, if they have to change a bylaw, they have to mention it in the previous meeting, and then they can vote on a change the next meeting. So this was to change the division changes every 2 years rule, which is in the bylaws.
Right.
Because they wanted to change the holster distance requirement from 2 to like 3 inches, I think. And they couldn't currently do that because limited was changed within 2 years ago, so they can't do all divisions.
So they can't do the changes they want to do to the the equipment rules,
right?
Because there's this thing that says, "Hey, you guys can't change the equipment rules all the fucking time."
Yeah.
Because that sucks, and they're like, "Well, let's get rid of that rule." What are your thoughts?
They're going to modify
it.
They're going to change it to maybe like I heard 6 months or a year or something like that. I think
changing the equipment rules every 6 months is ridiculous.
It does. Yeah, it does.
I agree.
I think it should be at least a year. Because that gives you, basically, if they make a change in the spring, you'll have the whole full season to shoot under it. Or if they make it in the fall, you'll have the winter to prepare for it and the whole season to shoot. So.
No, I don't like that, but.
What would you stick at 2 years?
That's just me. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say there was some wisdom there.
Okay.
When they made it every 2 years. And it's like, hey, there's this change you want to make, but we weren't thinking about this when we made other changes.
One thing IPSC does is every world shoot, right? So it's every 4 years, right?
Well, the world shoots every 3, but
Okay, 3.
I don't know exactly how often they can change.
Well, they can't. They can only do it every 3. Like, it's voted on at the world shoot. And
That's the only time they do the General Assembly?
That's the only time they do division changes.
Oh, well, I quite like that then, every 3 years.
Yeah.
That'd be alright, yeah.
That actually makes sense. I would not want to be in a place where you are potentially having to buy new shit like every year.
Well, I guess my question is then, like, if they changed something for limited, but they didn't do anything for production or single stack or something like that, then, like, because they made one change per one division, then we have to wait a full 2-year cycle in order to change another division?
Each division every 2 years.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, that seems like that ought to be plenty of tinkering to me, but...
Well, yeah, I would think so.
Basically, the holdup was they changed limited to allow 357 SIG like a year and a half ago.
Because so many people are shooting that caliber.
Yeah, I know, dude. It was very important to do at the time. So they couldn't have the 3-inch rule with the gun and belt. So it's got to be within 3 inches of your belt or something. You guys.
Which is another completely unnecessary change.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
But then to keep the kind of overly stringent rules for like single stack instead of making them more like, at least I would say make them linear to production rules. It's kind of always been my thought, but
yeah.
I think that's a holdover from the roots of single stack division.
Right.
Well, it's a single stack.
Well,
yeah, because it was the classic, and that was the single stack society's rule is
right.
We're not going to use these faggy gamer holsters. We're going to use real stuff on the streets or whatever. I don't know. For their holsters.
Yeah. That was all that did. So
I get that.
They can vote on it on the next one.
All right. Well,
basically, if you have an opinion on that, talk to your area director. Tell them not to change it.
No, I'll just podcast that shit. I don't care enough to compose an email to the area director to say,
Jesus.
I'm not concerned about this change that you're making, but I don't like the precedence this sets. It's like, whatever. Okay, now there's some meat on the bones for carry optics, and we're going to get to some interesting stuff. So, Hopkins, your, I would say, calm and rational pleas for different rules in carry optics, they were heard, right? By that, I mean you went fucking crazy about this.
My God, I'd hope so.
Did I really go that crazy?
Dude, you were like just throwing around conspiracy theories. Like,
there's been a couple of podcasts I'd like to come back and take back questions on.
Man, if I had it in me to edit this stuff, that would be a great spot to like splice in something from an old podcast and have you say, "Did I really go that crazy?" and then just show it like a nice montage.
Well, what was the old talk like Q whatever it was here? That would be where we put it in. Q Angry Matt here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it went good. You know, there was like lively discussion on it. The good thing was everybody heard from their members in the areas. There wasn't one person that didn't.
So the big highlight there was the weight limit went away, essentially. I mean, it's 45 ounces, but that is effectively no weight limit, right?
Right.
And
what about like grip texture and things like that?
You can.
I think the bigger one besides weight was you can stipple all over. You can like undercut it. You can do beaver tails, all that bullshit.
Slide cuts.
Yeah, you could do front cocking serrations, not through the slide.
So now this is kind of what we're getting into with like the, granted not like salient, but well, I guess like a salient gun or
not like salient, but yeah, pretty much a salient.
Well, yeah, well, there's what's the other company too? The other kind of big Glock.
Zev.
Yeah, well, yeah, Zev and things like that. I don't know.
It's like if you want a salient but can't really afford one, and you don't care if it works properly or not, then you buy a Zev.
Nice. Yeah.
But if you cared about it working properly, would you even go to salient?
Well, if you just wanted to buy something and have it work, you would just buy a Glock.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But if that's like not complicated enough for you, then you could get something that works pretty much just as well.
Like
for
the
a lot more
agency
money.
arms or whatever. I think they're kind of doing the salient thing too.
Yeah,
But
there's a bunch of boutiques out there that do that.
so at least now it's like, yeah, those boutique guns are not specifically illegal.
The most interesting change I thought was that in carry optics you must have an optic.
That's been the most controversial one since.
Right.
Because it's completely unnecessary, yes?
Well, no.
What are they trying to do? You're in the room, like what's the
I
point?
was
of
in
that?
the room. The justification I got, and I agreed with it, was these dudes are going to come and show up with their production guns, shooting iron sights, and basically still win the division doing that.
Right.
Because there's
So far, I mean, this all sounds like a plan.
everybody agreed on that, and Troy was a big proponent of making these slide-mounted optics mandatory. And after talking about it in the room, they actually asked my opinion, and I agreed with them. To make it such a different division, and some people have brought up that if this is just for the provisional time period, and that was not talked about at all, that it's going to be mandatory probably forever, from what I could tell, unless enough members talk to them.
Well, how many people are going to be like screaming from the mountaintops, like, I want to shoot carry optics without an optic, damn it.
Well,
about
I think
all,
they did.
about
Another
all
one,
8 of them.
Yeah. Another thing was they wanted to differentiate it from production.
I think
So
it's kind of
they
a good
require
move to
the
do.
dot on it.
I guess. None of it sounds like a good move to me, but whatever.
Otherwise, like I guess you could shoot pistol caliber carbine then with a production gun. I don't, you know what I mean? What sense would that make as well?
So
Yeah.
I wonder if they wanted it to be like more different. Do they think that there's a little bit too much overlap between limited and limited 10, perhaps?
There's a little bit, yeah. Tell you what, dude, L10's not going to go away. It's going to.
No fucking way is it gonna go
From
away.
what I got from that meeting, it'll never disappear. Like, it'll never go away. I don't understand it.
Well, I don't see that on the minutes. Any discussion of
They
smoking
didn't bring
limit
it
10.
up at all, but
Well, it sounds like it was discussed.
like just talking to individual members of the board.
Well, what's the hang up? I don't get it.
There are people that shoot it. There's activity, so they don't need to get rid of it.
Well,
They did bring up, the board did talk about, it's not in the minutes, they talked about diluting divisions. It was pretty ad hoc talk. So they basically just they're like, I don't understand why people say it'll dilute divisions. This dilutes divisions and all that.
they don't understand the argument.
No.
All right, so kind of like the guys that were upset about Area 6 not recognizing their division of choice. Being, I think, 8 dudes signed up for carry optics, so
None.
Area 6 is not going to...
None of them.
What?
It wasn't a level 2 division, so they didn't offer it. Then
Well,
basically
okay, but
the
like
MD
Lim
said
10's not going to be
enough-
recognized either.
Well, because enough people didn't sign up for it.
Right, so the board would not recognize that as a problem. Because you get some guy in a division who's like, I like this division, I want to shoot this division. Then he goes to shoot the division at a major match, and they're like, oh, well, not enough people shoot that, so you don't get to shoot the division you like, even though that's a thing.
I don't think they're looking at it from nationals or area standpoint.
Well, what fucking standpoint are they looking at it
They're
from?
looking at it from the mission count, like how much classifiers they get and stuff.
Who gives a monkey fuck about that?
It's money, dude.
They're going to get the money anyway. If you shoot a match, you're going to get the classifier mission count, regardless of what division you're in.
They're afraid those people won't show up, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to get in another argument about this.
God damn it!
We've got plenty of PCC talk here in a second. We can argue.
Oh shit!
About diluting stuff. God damn it! Well, I think it would even if people don't like you're diluting the sport argument. I mean,
Yeah.
I think making an effort to understand the argument would be good for them.
That'd be fine with me, but you don't have to convince me that. you have to convince the listeners, and then they have to convince their area directors.
Well, the problem is, I think you eventually reach a tipping point where there's enough divisions with small little contingents of people that shoot them, where it's like really not. The area directors are not going to want to smoke any division for fear of like pissing off that contingent, and there's not going to be many people. Like, I can sit here and bleat about, oh, they're diluting the sport or whatever, but I don't care enough to make a huge deal out of it. It probably wouldn't sway my vote.
What if the board put in a criteria of making a division from provisional to an actual division, and from a division and killing it?
What, like if they actually put in numbers there and stuff?
Exactly. If there's not a certain, like if they don't make a division in all 8 area matches, and then a certain number of classifier counts or whatever, because those people will go shoot something else.
What?
There's very few that are stuck with L10 only guns.
Right. Well, to me, it seems like if you can add divisions, but any division you add, you're stuck with for all time.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a very good system. And the whole concept of having a provisional division, saying, we'll try it for a while, but there'll be some activity, so therefore a provisional division is going to become a division, at which point it will never not be a division. I mean,
well, that's why I like
ridiculous to me.
That's why if we had set guidelines, we'd know.
Sounds like race cars
can't
again.
really hide it.
Right, Tim? I know we've discussed this before, but you were in a sport.
Yes.
That went through this.
Yes.
And how did you like that?
I hated it.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
they're the
if you
number
showed
one
up at
sport,
nationals and
though.
there were 4 freaking people that raced a certain class, that for some reason that class stayed a class for like the end of time. I don't know. It was never there was never a division or never a class that was ever on the chopping block due to participation numbers. It never happens. They're just like, well, nobody's racing there. Well, if we change the rules on that and we move some stuff around and we either make some more cars, legal for that class, or we move some of those cars out of that class into a class that maybe they could be competitive there, then we'll just tell you what, we'll find 5 more classes to move things around in. It's like, no, just kill one and call it done. I mean, like, that's
why I think there needs to be criteria where the board actually have to.
Well, what would you say that did for your sport from a competitive standpoint?
It diluted it.
Well, what does that mean, though? Like, you got to explain it to the board because none of them understand. So,
It diluted it to the point where then you had guys that literally they'd wait a year or two, and they might have a car that they used to be they wanted competitive equity, so they wanted to race against the best. They wanted to drive against the best drivers. Well, then again, become to the point where they're like, well, shit, my car's outclassed. Well, now I'll move it into this class that's dead and have nobody to really have to worry about a race against. And they basically go what we call fishing for a jacket. Which that was, you win a national championship at SCCA. That's one of the big things you get. You get a jacket with your name on it, and that was, they'd go fishing for a jacket in a class that was completely not participated in, just to say that they were a national champion. So,
well,
the same thing as in the shooting sports. You get hiders.
Well, no, in USPSA they do it differently, where instead of having one national event that everybody goes to nationals, we'll just have a different national event for every division, or go like maybe 2 divisions at one national event, and these are held, months apart, thousands of miles apart, and we end up. I mean, at last year, I would say, thinking back to it, in 2014 we had a nationals in Utah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And last year,
I thought that was a great idea, by the way.
Right. We had a bunch of nationals last year, which meant, in effect, we had no nationals. Because there wasn't any national event that just every dumb motherfucker was at.
Right.
We didn't have anything like that. Like a lot of open dudes and maybe some crossover at the open match, and a lot of production dudes and a lot of crossover at the production match.
Right. Versus like going to a world shoot where it's like it's all done in one week and you shoot the division that you shoot that you qualified in.
And
that's
everybody in the world is there.
You're exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Period.
That's why I kind of like. That's why I kind of like nationals. That I think, USPSA Nationals should kind of be run that way, like 2014.
Well, yeah.
in
So,
St. George, I like that, you know.
But if we
and I
have,
wouldn't even shoot that, but
if we
I
have
like that
eight-
idea.
If we have 8 divisions, as it looks like we shortly will, we have 8 divisions. They put them all in one event, then it will be fairly obvious that we have a few divisions that just don't matter.
Right.
Anyway,
I agree.
rehash over. Matt, continue with what you were saying.
Put our
I like
sticks
how
down.
Matt, so you pushed to get the division you want, made the way you want it, knowing that there's no way to kill the divisions that nobody shoots.
Well, that's why I'm saying we should have a criteria. The board should come up with a set guideline. Like if the division doesn't meet these certain things,
Or they could just kill the ones that
they're
quite
not going to
plainly-
do that. They're not going to do that, so we got to figure another way around it.
Oh my God, they need some cover or something?
Yes, I think that's what it is.
Oh my God.
It's about keeping the membership happy, even if it's a whopping 30 members nationwide that would be unhappy with
They
try to
all-
keep-
a proposed move.
You try to keep everyone happy, you end up keeping no one happy.
Therein lies the problem.
All right, Matt.
They talked about changing the name, but no one thought the name needed to be changed at this point.
I think they need a way cooler name.
Like what?
Well, you proposed putting tactical in the name. That's obviously an improvement,
Well,
right?
I don't know. I mean, it's got some traction now. I think if you change the name, you're just going to muddy the waters.
Oh, yeah. Well, how about call it Operator Optics?
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Yes.
You got to allow threaded barrels, then, though. They didn't approve that yet.
Why do they give a shit?
I don't know, dude. I'm done talking about it. It's stupid. I'm over it at this point, honestly.
I can't wait to
I
get
just
my
want to fucking
optic
shoot production.
ready slide so I can shoot P320 optics.
I'm not going to shoot it. I'm gonna shoot the Nationals with my iron sight gun and see what they do to me.
What?
Are they going to bump me into open?
Bump you to open.
Yeah, you're not going to be. You thought the rule was a good idea. They asked you.
I thought.
You
No,
have
like,
fought it tooth and nail about this is bullshit. CZs can't. There's no way. They're just doing this to screw me. Now you got the rules opened up to where you're not screwed anymore. Build a frickin' optic gun and frickin' shoot it.
No way, dude.
Or you could
come
say
on.
this is kind of the opposite of what USPSA is, right? USPSA is like, we will allow you to do these things, and then you just kind of figure it out and do it the way you want to do it. In carry optics, we allow you to use an optic, and what if some wise ass says, well, I don't want to use an optic, and then you be like, all right, well, do it however you want to do it. I don't give a fuck. Like that would seem like the normal USPSA style reaction to that.
Yeah, but you can't.
But instead they think, no, somebody will win carry optics without an optic, and that just can't happen.
You know the best part about this is it's like a little kid or something. Like, no, this is bullshit. I don't like these rules. I want these rules changed. Okay, fine. No, I want these rules changed. Okay, fine. We'll change the rules. Fine. No, I don't want to play anymore. I'm done.
Who's the little kid? Is that Matt? Probably not.
Come on now. They did it to differentiate the divisions.
Well, they should. You can't go and shoot freaking 1911 and fucking
Well,
revolver
hold on.
nationals.
Why don't they require you to shoot like a single stack gun in limited 10 then?
Because
Like,
they have
don't-
a division for that. It's called single stack.
Okay, but it would differentiate it from limited.
I don't know. The board wasn't thinking when they voted L10, I guess.
No, I think they were thinking that. If I was on the board when they voted in L10, I'd have voted for it.
So you
Right?
basically have to look at
Early
it.
90s,
You
or
basically have to
90s?
look at it this way. Then they know that an iron sight gun that somebody should be able to, should technically be able to run an iron sight gun then faster than a comparable optic ready gun.
I'm not sure I really buy that, but
No,
But
it's not-
if that's okay, then what would be the difference then? Because that's like taking a limited gun and you can bump up a division and shoot open with the limited gun, but you can't take an open gun and bump down a division because open is open.
Well, you can take a carry optics gun, take your optic off, and bump up to open division and shoot with an iron sight.
oh yes, shooting carry optics with no optic puts you in open. I love it.
It does.
Not a lot of logic to it, but that's okay.
That's why it's still provisional and they can change it at will.
Of course, and then once it becomes locked in, then they'll have to change the rules so they can change it more frequently.
Yeah, well, it'll be 1 year at that point, probably.
Okay. Moving down here. Steel Challenge classification system and rule update. It sounds like there'd be a lot of value add in Steel Challenge if they had a classification system, and that's exactly what they talk about, yeah?
They talked about it. They said there's basically two thoughts. Phil and Max Michel came up with one of a time plus, basically, of you shoot one local match, you'll be classified, and a set of brackets on where your time ends up being. And then there was another more complicated one where you shoot multiple stages over multiple different matches.
Okay, well, being as this is USPSA, I reckon they liked the more complicated one.
They didn't really settle on one, honestly, but they did allow where level ones can shoot the non-8 stages, so they can make up their own. But any level 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever have to shoot the standard 8 stages.
Huh. Well, I'm not a steel shooter, so I wonder what the discussion was like about that.
They just basically said some clubs get bored of the 8 stages and they want to come up with their own.
Yeah, but why not allow that at higher level matches?
Because they want to maintain the history
integrity.
of it, yeah, and everything.
Maintain the what?
The history and everything. Like Steel Challenge is those 8 stages. Like if you see it on TV, you see those 8 stages.
Well, all right. Another good reason for me not to be a steel shooter, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not. It didn't make me want to shoot it even more now.
Okay, so moving on to another division, pistol caliber carbine.
Oh, look at the smile getting ready to crack across his face.
So Mike Foley made a very good presentation. He had info from, like, beta tests, he called it, where he had a local club of his run 10 to 12 shooters a couple months. They got data. I shot it at a local match once and got data. Basically, people are shooting this in USPSA matches all over the country as not an official division, and they're just doing it, and it's working.
Already?
Yeah, it's happening.
Okay.
And it's had more participation as not even a provisional division than Carry Optics has. Because there's only 42 people classified in Carry Optics.
It doesn't sound like anybody gives a rat's ass how much participation there is.
Well, I'm just saying there is more participation now than Carry Optics.
Well, 42 people getting classified is not really setting the bar very high.
No. For Carry Optics, no.
Okay. So now that you've had a few weeks to think about the PCC thing, and obviously we've talked about it, and lots of other people have. What's your thoughts on this, Matt? Where should this go?
I think they need to let Troy develop, get the rules set out, and then present it. Basically, it's going to be all carbine PCC competitors start this way. There's no turn and draws, none of that shit. You have to worry about why it's provisional, why they figure everything out. So it'll be basically all PCC start downrange, gun at low ready, on the shoulder, safety on. All the issues people have talked about are not there, like during this provisional. I mean...
Well, what about affecting stage design?
There's no plan to let it affect stage design.
Well, there might be positions that you can get into with a pistol, but not really get into with a long gun.
They're just going to have to deal with it with the long gun. Basically.
So that's kind of my thought, like opening a port with one hand and having to shoot
with figure it out.
Okay.
Basically, they talked about strong hand would be strong hand on the strong shoulder, and then weak hand would be weak shoulder, which I think should be mandatory as weak hand on the trigger. That way it differentiates. Because you don't pull your weak hand, you don't just move the gun to your left side if you're shooting a pistol.
I don't know. I mean...
You can't do that. That's not weak hand only.
Right, yes, with a pistol, but I don't know what the rules should be with a PCC.
I think you should have to switch hands. You go from like this to switching.
Why should you have to switch hands?
and switch shoulders because it's a different hand. It's your weak side, weak hand.
Okay. I don't know.
Basically, they just voted to let Troy make a rule set up, and then they're going to talk about it in the February meeting, and then actually probably release it to the membership after that.
What's the point of adding the division? Like, what's the goal?
I don't know. You know, they never brought that up.
I mean, is it gonna, are they thinking it's going to increase participation?
I think they think it will increase participation. There's not a current area for those things to shoot in. Because basically, if you say shoot them in a multi-gun match, people don't want to shoot shotguns. They want to shoot the one gun, the PCC.
All right. Do you feel like the goal is to increase participation?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is that the goal with carry optics as well?
I mean, I hope so, but
It's been a resounding success, yes?
Dude, we got 42 classified members.
We got 42 members classified in it. I reckon most of them are not new members, though.
I think, though, the thing with carry optics is they missed the boat initially with making the rules so stringent to begin with. So, whereas well, just with the provisional rule set being, what was it, 35 ounces or whatever, and everything.
Spoiler alert, Tim. Carry optics is not going to appreciably increase participation in the sport, regardless of the rule set that they use.
I think PCC can, though, or it probably would. I think it's got a better...
PCC has a better chance.
It absolutely has a better chance. There's more manufacturers building rifles that are pistol caliber.
Well, that's not really relevant. Participation's about people coming and shooting them.
Right, but that's the thing, though. Is people are going to buy those thinking, like, ooh, that's cool. A CZ Scorpion Evo. Those are cool to have. Well, okay, great. Well, they have one, and it's like before this, like Matt and I have talked about that before. It's like, man, it's an awesome gun to maybe take to a range and just plink with, or to just have it in the safe. And now it's like, well, shit. Now there's a division, and I can actually get this thing out and actually compete with it too.
You're already sold on the idea of USPSA generally.
Yeah.
So the gun that you use to do that is not really the point for you. You're sold on the sport.
Well, not for me, correct. But if I saw somebody shooting a pistol caliber carbine and even say a local indoor range,
how about
it's not one of those like, hey, if you got that, you can actually shoot what you're shooting right there.
Well, how many people do you think they're like, that USPSA shit is stupid? They'll let me use a PCC? I'm in. Now I'm in. How many of those people are there?
Probably a few, honestly.
Probably almost none, I think it'd be fair to say. Now, how many people do you think are like, that USPSA looks pretty cool, but the gun that I would really want to shoot is this PCC thing?
I
mean, I'm not interested in doing that with a pistol, but with my PCC, yes, I would do that.
I do. I have.
How many of those people are there? I don't know. Probably more.
There's quite a few more of those, yes.
Right, because it doesn't make it.
There's a lot of people that have those and don't want to. They're like, man, I can't afford the cost of entry of 3-gun. I have to buy a pistol and a shotgun and all the gear that goes with it. It's like, well, now you have an outlet for that. There's
an outlet for what?
To shoot a rifle.
If somebody loves the idea of 3-gun but can't afford to do 3-gun, I'm not sure that they'd find. I mean, USPSA is still expensive. It's a lower price point, but it's still expensive.
Right. Sure.
I don't know.
There'll be more in the next meetings on that. I mean, once we actually once they release what Troy comes up with, then people can talk about it.
Well, the thing that pisses me off about adding divisions to increase participation is you kind of assume the answer to the question of, well, why don't people shoot USPSA?
Well, how would you?
I know it's the equipment rule.
How would you fix that?
How would I fix what?
Increasing participation in USPSA.
Yeah.
How would I fix it?
Yeah.
You'd probably get data on why people don't shoot USPSA and figure out what you can do to make USPSA better. So I don't know this to be the case because I haven't read any studies on it, but I would suspect that the length of time it takes to shoot a club match would have something to do with how much participation you get in USPSA.
Oh, that's horseshit, though.
What's that?
I think that's horseshit.
No, that's a valid point because there's
Because
people that leave early all the time.
Well, there's people that leave early, but I mean, I don't know. The same could be said then if that were the case. And let's kind of revert this then back to like SCCA. There's people that literally will take, that are willingly giving up an entire Sunday from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening for, a minute and a half of full seat time, and they're in a parking lot in the middle of the goddamn summer.
Looking at it from the
I'll
perspective of golf.
I've been to those events, and you know why I didn't go back?
Because you sat in the parking lot all damn day.
Yeah, exactly. So if I could get the minute and a half of seat time in like an hour, that'd be a lot better. Then it would make me more likely to participate in the future.
Look at it from golf's point. You can show up at any golf course, get a tee time basically the same day, go out, do the full thing in 4 hours, and you're done. You can't do that at a USPSA match, really. It's usually like a 6-hour event. And you're only doing something part of the time. Golfing, you're doing something the whole time, basically.
Well, I look at it like this, Tim. This is my theory on this. Limited division was big because that allowed people. It's not that people wanted to shoot limited guns. I don't even think they really existed just strictly as limited guns. They weren't really a thing.
Right.
But limited was big because now you don't have to shoot a custom open gun. And all the stuff that goes with that. Like the more costly gun, you have to reload your own ammunition. I mean, you must. Right? Otherwise you cannot, you could participate, sure, but you can't really compete.
Right.
Unless you're shooting open. So that was a big thing that limited did. In retrospect, we can look back on why the limited 10 production and revolver all came at the same time, yeah?
Yeah.
There's a reason why 2 of those failed and 1 was successful. And production was successful. I could tell you this influenced my decisions. Production was successful not because it's super awesome that I can go buy a gun off the shelf and shoot it. I mean, you can pretty much do that. I could buy a Glock and like fuck around with the trigger and have a pretty competitive gun. That's true. But more importantly, I can shoot 9mm, like factory ammo.
Right, it's cheap.
Right, so it reduced the price point of participation substantially. And it's like kind of a commonly bought gun, so it was kind of a twofer. Limited 10 didn't really solve a problem for anybody. It's something that at the time I would have thought it would be a problem. Like we have this magazine ban thing going on, so all the high cap mags will go away. People will just have 10-round mags. Like that makes sense. But there was enough high cap mags floating around that it didn't become an issue. And revolver, nobody wants to shoot those anyway, really. I mean, seriously. So, I mean, when you look at it in retrospect, it's easy to see why production took off and the other divisions didn't. Right? And is PCC really solving a structural problem with the sport? I don't think so.
So then, how do we replicate that with something else?
What do you?
How do you replicate the success of
other?
production?
Well, I'm not sure it's about you replicating the success of those divisions. It's how do you bring more people into the sport?
Right.
Right, and it's like, well, why are people actually not shooting more? I mean, I don't think you go for the people that think USPSA is stupid. That's not the people you go for. You go for people that are kind of on the bubble or on the fence anyway. Like maybe they shot a couple matches and never came back, or maybe they look at the sport and they're like, okay, that looks kind of interesting, but that's not for me for whatever reason. And we should be finding out how we get those people that are on the bubble, they're on the margins, they're kind of looking at it, thinking about it, why aren't they participating? Like, truly. And if we could do things like maybe make matches take less time, which I think would be cool. I'm with you. I'll go stand out there all day. Like, I'll go to an 8-hour club match, whatever. But I have to recognize that other people are not me. Right? They don't love it that way. Anyway, that's my thinking. So anyway, Mac, what were we talking about before I got on a tangent?
PCC, I think we beat that into the ground.
Fuck that dumbass division.
Just set up criteria. I think it'll solve itself.
What's that?
Set up criteria. It'll solve itself. And then no one has to take the heat over it. It's been like, we set these guidelines. It didn't meet it.
But do you realize what bullshit that is? Where it's like, hey, the board, so you want the board to set guidelines that will result in divisions being eliminated, and then throw up their hands and say, "Well, we didn't do it. There was these guidelines."
Well, maybe in the next cycle, because those guys won't have voted it in.
Holy shit! Oh man,
It could work.
I mean, they could act like real politicians and do that kind of stuff.
There we go. Perfect.
It's like, whoa, I don't know nothing. Like there was just these guidelines and that's it.
Next, Jake Martin's made a. Oh man, he talked for a long time. Basically, it's all in the minutes. If you want to read that, I don't want to go over it.
No, I don't give a shit. All right, what was the interesting stuff?
Board meeting frequency. They basically do a meeting and voting and like agenda every other month. The month in between is talking about like what they need to do.
Okay.
Foley wants to get NSSF involved and survey the members, and kind of like something happened in 2008 where they did that. Basically, NSSF paid for it, and it worked out pretty good because it was good for sponsors.
Okay.
Bruce Gray talked about strategic planning, which basically he says our mission is to promote safe, fair, and fun participation in practical shooting competition where members of all ages and skill levels through effective leadership, education, communication, and administration. He did a lot of like synergy stuff I think big companies do when they merge. I think a couple of the people there blew it off like, oh, we're going to get synergized now and do all this other stuff. But I think they like, if they actually listen to it, they can learn from it. I learned something that I'm going to take beyond just the board meeting in USPSA.
Okay. And the ad hoc committee discussion?
Foley talked about bringing in non-board members to get on committees. Some of the board was hesitant about that just because you don't know who's going to be on it or anything. So they're going to talk about that in the February meeting, I think, and like with ideas and stuff.
Well, that's a good thing, though. That's actually a good idea from Foley because I don't think getting more voices or more people in the mix
Bruce in the meeting basically said, why do we have to have committees for everything if they're not doing anything? So you basically spin up a committee if you need it. And once it's done, you basically get rid of it. Which made a lot of sense. That way there's not everybody on a committee and they're basically doing nothing on it because nothing needs to be done.
Okay, and next?
2015-16 budget, I was not in the meeting for that. They kicked me out for that. They kicked me out for all the executive session also. And then they closed the meeting that night.
All right. So.
And then I guess on Sunday they started in the executive session and they said they voted after that to accept the salary adjustments as discussed during executive session. They all voted yes on it and passed.
All right. So some people got some salary adjustments that we don't know the details of.
Yeah, no one knows the numbers of that.
Doesn't really matter. Hopefully they did the right thing for the right people or whatever.
Yeah, we have to trust the board members that do that. I mean, we voted them in. They gotta. I mean, we basically have to trust them until they can't be, or they prove otherwise.
Yes. All right. So, what did you take away from the meeting, Hopkins?
I thought it's good. I thought Mike led it very good. Like basically everything was held on point. It started promptly on time. They brought pizza in and they worked through the lunch. Like it was a long day. They started at 8 and basically got done at 8. And there was
let me ask you this:
bathroom breaks and everything. Yeah.
So I think people probably have two questions, right? Number one, we put in Mike Foley basically.
Yeah.
All right. You did the right thing. Based on you sitting there observing.
Definitely.
All right.
They said members that were there before Foley, like with other presidents, said nothing's ever ran this smooth and got this much done in this little amount of time.
All right. And then the other thing is,
that's awesome.
Do you think that USPSA is like on track? Because there's been a lot of trauma the last couple of years. They on track?
Yeah, I think they're on track. I think with a growing organization, there's always going to be problems, and they're going to have to deal with that. But I think they're on the track. I think they need to focus on some other things. I mean, divisions is pretty big right now, but it's one of the least things we need. We don't need all these new divisions. If they took
You're in
their time
favor of
with
both
that-
of them, you asshole.
I'm just saying, if they took their time, like they are, there's some other things like they need to work on also. One thing I noticed though that I want to key on: none of these guys are paid except for Mike, Troy, and Kim. So basically, they all had flights booked out of there so they could get back to their real jobs, where they actually make money. So I think it might be a point in time where we need to actually compensate them.
I've been wondering about this myself because as it grows, like those guys get hit up constantly too,
Dude,
right?
I think they have a full-time job.
With being a
Just-
board
yeah,
board
I
member.
think the amount of emails they answer, I bet they do have a 30-hour-a-week job,
Yeah,
probably averaged over the whole year, which to do for nothing with just travel expenses is kind of crazy if you ask
I
me.
definitely don't want to have board members that can't have real jobs because then you have like angry old retired men like run all of our gun clubs around the world.
Yeah, true.
I don't like that. So if we could have people that have a life but they get paid enough so they can sort of make it work, like that would be cool. But then I'm nervous about paying them because then there's kind of an extra incentive to stay in there. Like I don't want somebody who's in there for the money.
Right.
I know that none of those guys are in there for the money now, right?
They definitely are not.
I don't know. I think they're going to have to get paid something at some point.
If it gets much bigger, I think you're going to have to.
Yeah. Well, I like it. Tim Herron, do
Yeah.
you have anything else to say about this?
I just noticed the last thing, like on page 14, where it says USPSA strategic initiatives in the Appendix A, and it's got just a list of bullet points about grow the USPSA.
That was part of Bruce Gray's presentation, and he
Okay.
thinks that's what USPSA board should look like, what their decisions are made for, like what does they decide. Everything should run through that list of things.
Okay.
Bruce is very smart. Like I took away from him, like he knows. He's not just done this with the board. I think he has a real good permanent job. He's had to do this a lot with his job because he was really smart. He knew a lot about like just getting the board there and all the board and trying to get them motivated and stuff. It was neat.
All right. Well, Hopkins, you have a podcast to make, don't you?
Yeah, I got a couple minutes.
Well, we'll let you get to it. Thank you for telling us about the meeting.
Yeah, no
Very
problem.
exciting. I hope you didn't make any board members mad.
I don't think I did this time. I don't think I did last time either, but
They don't really care what you say, I don't think. Unless they're asking about, like, hey, carry optics, should we even allow people to shoot it with irons?
consensus was make it different than the current divisions, because having another copy of production isn't going to be successful.
That's funny because I was thinking their best chance of having it be successful was to copy the thing that they already have they know works. Just production.
Yeah, but who's going to shoot that then?
Who's going to shoot it now?
I don't know. It's dumb. I'm over it though. I'm ready to start shooting this year.
All right, I'm ready to start shooting too, Matt.
All right.
All right, if you have any shooting questions you want to send to us, go to bensticker.com, email me your questions, and we'll talk about it. Yay.
All right.